Welcome to episode number 6 of the RetroWolf podcast, and I've got a little bit different of a guest today. He's not a YouTuber, he didn't work on the Game Chasers movie, but he is a really good friend of mine, and he has a huge Instagram following, and he's a huge game collector, and his name is Karl, aka RetroGamingZone on Instagram. How you doing today, Karl?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Just been working on YouTube stuff all day, man. How about you?
Nice. Nah, same thing, man. I'm fresh off the heels of a claim sale. Just not a bad way to end your Saturday night.
Hell yeah. Awesome. So, for the people in my audience that, and I'm sure there probably are some people in my audience that follow you on Instagram, I would imagine, because you have almost 25,000 followers now, and I know some of those followers are subscribed to my channel. But for the people that maybe are not familiar with who you are, just, kind of just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what your Instagram page is all about and that sort of thing.
Right. So my name is Karl. I run an Instagram page called RetroGamingZone, which is right there. I'm just a game collector. Truly speaking, I got a Super Nintendo, I think, for like my kindergarten graduation, and I've loved it ever since. I rediscovered all of my old video games back in like 2015, and I started to play them, casually. And I had a Sega Genesis, but I couldn't find it. So after playing Super Nintendo for so long, I'm like, I need to find the Genesis again. So I went to eBay, went to Craigslist, Letgo, all these places to try to find the Genesis. And I found one with a pretty solid bundle of games, and I just started playing that. And I really got addicted, man. It was kind of, very, very easy to fly off the handle, with buying all these games. Because as adults now, we have, somewhat passable income where we can afford to spend money, here or there on games. There are things that we really didn't get as a kid, I know there's quite a few games for Genesis, like Contra Hardcore, a few that I didn't have as a kid and I really wanted to play. So I started picking up those here and there. And I just loved it so much. I was like, let me make an Instagram page for this, because I was following some game pages on Instagram just because I was so into it. And I was like, hell, let me do that, Like, I got a pretty solid bookcase of games, I could totally get my friends into this and kind of find it as a way to be like my outlet for collecting. And I did that, and it's kind of just been an ongoing, day-to-day awesome time ever since, man. So that's pretty much the long and short of it all.
Hell yeah, and you've become, and I would say that you've become an instrumental figure in the Instagram game collecting retro gaming community, because you sell a lot of games to a lot of people on Instagram. I mean, you have a shitload of customers, man. And I think you give people good deals. I think your prices are more than fair.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I try to be,
Yeah, absolutely. And you've built up trust in the community. If somebody buys something from you, they know that they're getting a good product. They know you're going to ship it out carefully. I mean, hell, I've bought a ton of stuff from you. You've
How I met you, man.
Yeah, exactly. We met through Instagram, and I think you probably, just looking at my GameCube collection, I mean, you probably sold me 50 or more games that went into my GameCube collection. So,
dude, cheers to that, man.
Yeah, man. So,
set.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So yeah, a large part of my GameCube collection was from you. So I appreciate that, man. And I just realized something. Me and you have been friends for a while now, and this is actually the first time that we've actually talked.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Face to face,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
pretty incredible,
cool,
dude.
man. Yeah, that's awesome. Hell yeah. So cool, man. So you kind of talked about what got you into collecting, or kind of what started the spark that lit the fire of game collecting.
Right.
So how, kind of tell people how you've built your collection, like, because you live in New York City. So, I don't live in a big city. I've mainly lived in rural areas most of my life. The biggest city that I've ever lived near is Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it's not a very big city. It's like a freaking tiny fraction of what New York is. So, I would imagine game collecting in a big city like New York is a hell of a lot different than game collecting in, a rural area like where I live. So, just kind of talk about how you've built your collection and some of the places where you find games and how you find games and that sort of thing.
I remember when I first got into it, I was just going after the stuff that I had that I enjoyed because as a kid, you have like maybe 10. I think I had like maybe 10 or 15 Super Nintendo games, and they all weren't great. You know, maybe like 7 or 8 of them I would play regularly. There was a few that again they just weren't great. Um, so I specifically went after the stuff that I enjoyed, and then I went after the stuff that I had, even if I didn't really like it. I knew I had it, so I was like, let me get that back in my collection. Um, I distinctly remember after I had my Super Nintendo and my Genesis, I started collecting for PS1, and that's when I started dropping a decent amount of money. Like I had just gotten my tax refund, and there was like one day where I spent like $250 on PS1 games. But I mean, that was like my complete collection as a kid. It's rough, man. You kind of have to have like a varied approach to where you get stuff from. I found great deals on eBay. Particularly, you don't know, man. Just make an offer. It can't hurt. What's the worst that happens? The seller says no.
Exactly.
I've gotten a couple of pretty sweet complete in box deals. Like $130 game. I've thrown like a $95 offer and they've accepted it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still $95 is still a nice chunk of change for the seller. You don't know. I mean, maybe they just want a quick sell. They don't want to have it sitting there waiting for that retail price. For me, Craigslist and Let Go, the local stuff is a little bit more competitive. Just being from a really highly dense, populated area, you really got to be like the first person to see the listing.
Yeah.
To actually, there's been so many times where I've reached out to someone, they're like, oh yeah, someone's on the way now. Yeah. Or, oh, I sold it like 4 hours ago. I mean, you do get lucky. So I've gotten lucky on Craigslist a little bit. For me though, man, the biggest thing is just referrals, man. You'd be surprised how many people just have like a stack of games in like their closet or their basement. If you just let it be known that you're into this stuff and you're collecting it and you're going to give it a good home, or you'll find someone to give it a good home, hey, I already have that, but I know my buddy's looking for it. Dude, just word of mouth goes a really long way. And it's a small world, dude. So, I mean, I'm kind of all over the place, but it's been, 4 or 5 years now, and the collection's gotten pretty substantial. Not all in big chunks. It's been, a little bit here, a little bit there. And patience is a key, man. Patience is definitely a big part of it. I would not go buy a game, right away, especially after like someone on YouTube talks about it or you see it on Instagram, because the interest is, there.
Yep.
You'll find it. Give it a little while, man. You'll find someone on eBay, selling it for a deal, or you'll find it in a bundle of games somewhere. I try to be very patient in that regard. I'd rather find that one game in a bundle of 10 games and get them all for a better bargain than be, compulsive and just buy it now with that. Yeah. So, I know I'm kind of all over the place there, but that's more or less how I've done it, at least,
Cool. Yeah. So, all right. So let's break this down a little bit, right? Because what I want to get out of this podcast and what me and you were talking about before I hit the record button is I want to, make the main topic about game collecting so that people that are new to game collecting or maybe thinking about getting into game collecting, they can get some good tips from me and you, because I consider both of us to be seasoned game collectors at this point, right? We've got a lot of experience in it. We know what to look for, we know where to find stuff, we know what to pay for stuff. So all right, so let's start with a list of places where you can potentially find games, right? So Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, OfferUp, Let Go, eBay, even some Facebook groups. There are Facebook groups dedicated to people that are selling games, so you can find games there. Instagram is a great place to buy games, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that here in a little while. Pawn shops, thrift stores, antique stores,
flea markets,
sometimes flea markets, yard sales, garage sales, and even like you said, man, word of mouth. So if you're new to game collecting or you're thinking about getting into game collecting, the single best thing you can do, like Karl said, is to literally let everybody you know, friends, family, coworkers, let everybody you know that you're collecting video games, because you would be surprised Like
Yeah.
when I first started, and Karl, I'm sure you had the same experience, man. When I first started, I got so many games from people that friends, coworkers, family, for
Mhm.
free or next to nothing, simply by telling them, "Hey, I started collecting video games," and they would be like, "Oh, I think I've got a box of games in my basement," or you know what I mean. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're 100% right about that, man. That is that's probably the first thing you should do when you first get into game collecting. I think is spread it, let people know, spread it. That's probably not a good choice of words. Let don't spread it for. I mean, I'm sure you could probably get some games if you trade. Never mind. We're not going to go down that road. Uh, but yeah,
It
let
could
everybody
happen.
know. Yeah, I'm sure it happens, man. But yeah, let everybody
Dude,
know
I've
you're
I've
collecting.
got I've got some stories, man. Dude, oh, it's another day.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Craigslist, some
Hmm.
people are strange, man.
Yeah. Oh, God, dude, I remember that one that that you
Yeah.
texted
I'm
me
like, I'm
about.
gonna pass on this, man. I'm like, these games are pretty sweet, but I'm not gonna do this. I'm not
Oh
gonna meet
man.
you.
Nope, nope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
safety first, guys.
Yes.
Definitely safety first.
Yes, absolutely. So if you go to Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Offer Up, Let Go, anything like that, and you're meeting somebody local, number one, I recommend always meeting in the daytime, not nighttime, and meet in a
Yeah, man.
very public place.
For
Be
sure.
in a
Starbucks is
very public
great.
place. Yeah, because there are some crazy people out there, and you got to be careful. You got to be careful. But I've never had any problems personally, but I'm cautious. Daytime,
Mhm.
public place, cautious. But I wanted to ask you, Karl. So, what's the best game pickup you've gotten from the word of mouth that we're talking about?
Word of mouth. Let's see. So, my very good friend, who actually moved to the Philippines to help his father out with like the family business, he was my manager. I used to work at a Panera Bread, and he was my manager there. Back when I worked there in like 2011, 2012. But we stayed good friends. He lived pretty close by. We'd get beers like once a week. Um, and once he saw that I had this Instagram page, because he had left to go to the Philippines, and he comes
Hmm.
back like twice a year. But he came back, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm into this stuff now. And side note, don't ever feel awkward telling someone that you're into this stuff, because
Yes.
most of the time they're like, oh man, yeah, Super Nintendo was awesome. I used to play Earthbound all the time.
Hmm.
They just kind of like, I've seen people just get really happy and excited about talking about video games to you. So
Yep.
don't ever feel awkward or
Yep.
weird about just randomly bringing it up, because it's always a great conversation. But
Hmm.
he was telling me how he was the only kid when he was a child that had an Atari Jaguar. All his friends had N64s
Hmm.
and PS1s, and he's like, my mom got me this Jaguar. He's like, what the hell is this thing? I was the only kid who had it.
Hmm.
Um, you know, all my friends thought I was a reject, and I'm like, dude, that's a pretty expensive console. I'm like, if
Yep.
you could find it, he's like, oh, if I could find it, I'll give it to you. He's like, it's in like my storage unit somewhere, and me and him spent the whole day, like a week later, just digging through his storage unit, and we not only found the Jaguar, but we found like a power pad in the box. We found a complete copy of Contra on NES. We found
Nice.
his NES as well. His brother's Game Boy with a couple boxed Game Boy games, and he's like, dude, it's been sitting here for 20 years. Just take it. And I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, it's on permanent loan to you. And I'm like, dude, this stuff is not leaving my room. So, yeah, man, that would probably be, I would say, the best word of mouth pickup that I
Nice.
got. Yeah, the Jaguar,
Nice.
for
Nice.
sure.
I think mine. Uh, trying to think. I have to say mine. So, like I mentioned earlier, wherever you work, let your coworkers know, and that's what I did.
Hmm.
I let my coworkers know. And side note, what you said earlier about don't be afraid to say that you're collecting video. There's no reason to be afraid to say that you're collecting video games or that you're into video games. I've never understood the stigma
Yeah, man,
that's
like that
kind of
nerd
out there.
stigma. It's
Yeah,
stupid,
it's
man.
it's so
Yeah.
stupid, and I feel like it's going away because what a lot of people don't realize is that the video game industry literally is bigger than every other entertainment industry. Movies,
Hmm.
music, books.
Yeah.
Video game industry makes more money every year than any other form of entertainment. And a lot of people don't realize that. So there's no reason to be ashamed of it, because what's the difference between a video game and a movie? A movie, you're sitting there watching something. A video game, a lot of video games are like
It's a
movies.
cinematic experience, man. It
Right,
really is now. Yeah.
right. So, anyways, but we could turn a whole podcast into talking about that topic, I feel like, and maybe that'll be another one for another day. But yeah, so I think my best word of mouth pickup, a coworker of mine, I told him I'm collecting games, and if you have any old games, let me know. And he said, yeah, I think I've got a box of Super Nintendo games somewhere that we found in a house that we're remodeling. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, send me some pics. And it took me like a week or two just to get him to dig it out and send me pics. But finally he did. And he sent me pics, and it was like, I want to say it was like 40 or 50 Super Nintendo games, and it was all the good games, dude. Super Mario RPG, F-Zero, Star
man.
Fox, Mario
Nice.
World, All Stars, just Secret of Mana, every staple Super Nintendo game you could think of. And so I'm like, okay, how much you want for it? And he gave me a price, and I talked him down to $4 per game. So I think I want to say I spent somewhere around 120.
Nice. Yeah,
And
man.
it was easily $700+ worth of Super Nintendo games at that time. Now probably worth even more, but yeah, I think that's probably my best word of mouth
Oh
pickup.
man, I have another one. You actually just triggered a thought in my mind. I have a good friend Josh who I've known probably since like 2002. We used to skateboard together, locally. And he's like, dude, I found my N64, and he had like 4 or 5 games, but one of them was Super Bowling, which is like a $200 or $300 loose bowling cartridge. And I didn't know it at the time because I'm not much of an N64 guy. I didn't have one as a kid. I had a PS1, so N64 is still somewhat new to me. But I'm just like looking these games up to see like if they're cool to play or if I want to even bother taking them from him. And I was like, holy crap. And I told him, I'm like, dude, listen, this game is expensive. I'm like, do you want something for it? I'm like, I'm not going to take it from you. I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. You're my friend, I'm like, this game is worth money. I'm like, if you want to sell it, that's cool. If you want to give it to me, I'll give you money for it, whatever. I actually ended up trading him a GameCube system for an N64 with my copy that I have of Super Bowling. So that was a pretty another solid local word of mouth scoop.
Hell yeah, and yeah, that game is pretty
They're
rare
out
and
there.
expensive. Yeah, yeah, they're definitely out there. So I wanted to ask you this before we get into some more collecting topics and tips for people. What's your favorite console to collect for?
Oh man, to collect for?
Mine.
Yeah, I know yours. I would say PS1, man.
That's what I was
I know Nintendo is more popular, but I had a PS1 as a kid, and there's so many games for it. Like I feel like the GameCube has a lot of games, but I know like most of those games.
Yeah.
The PS1 and the PS2 as well. I mean, there's just so many games. Like I'm still seeing like PS1 games that I didn't know existed, and that's always exciting, finding something that you didn't know was out there. Then like check it out. Like, oh, I might enjoy this. Let me check it out.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you how many PS1 games I have because they're all in storage, but it's definitely over 400. I would say. Like,
damn.
It's getting there, and there's a lot of hidden gems on PS1.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
So I would say that PS1 is my all-time favorite, and it's my wife's favorite because she loves Crash Bandicoot and Parappa the Rapper, and anything else she could care less about. So that kind of helps me, in the husband department.
Nice.
Kind of sharing games with the wife. PS1, the way to go.
Hell yeah. Well, I definitely respect you for that, because the PlayStation 1, damn, that's a hard console to collect for, because and I say that for 2 reasons. Number one, well, I say it for 3 reasons. Number one, there's a lot of games for it. Number two, a lot of the games are getting very expensive, especially the RPGs.
Yeah, PS1's getting up there, man.
Yeah. Number 3, it's so hard to find them in good condition, man. The cases are usually busted up, which I know you can buy replacement cases, but the cases are usually busted up. Manuals are sometimes tore, missing pages.
Water damaged.
Yeah, man. And for some reason, it seems like when I find PS1 games, the discs themselves are more damaged than almost any other console that I find that's disc based. and I don't
Yeah.
know why that is.
You know what? I find that as the years went on and on, the disc quality got better and better. So like
Hmm.
PS1 is like totally like super super sensitive.
Yeah,
PS2 is all right.
yeah,
You get the PS3 and like Wii U, and
yeah.
those discs can like withstand an atomic bomb. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
it's just
oh yeah,
PS1 is just it's unfortunate because there's so many great
yeah.
PS1 games, but like you say, a lot of times people didn't take care of them, or they're putting their
Hmm.
PS1 upside down because their PS1 was broken, and that just
Yeah.
wreaked havoc on the discs. But yeah, man, you know what? Speaking on that topic, I would say again, just patience. If you
Hmm.
find a game, that you want to have in your collection, the disc is shot,
Hmm.
hold it. Every time I get a pickup or a bundle of stuff, I compare it with what I currently have, and if
Yeah,
what I got is better than what I have, then I'll swap it out.
I do the same thing.
Yeah,
Yep. Especially with the GameCube, I do the same thing.
yeah, disc-based
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's another tip that I wanted to throw out for people. If you're going to get in, and I know that you're going to agree with me on this, Carl, and I'll have a follow up question for you after I say this. If you're going to
All
get
right,
into game collecting, or if you're new to game collecting, you have got to build up knowledge about the games and the consoles. Because if you don't have that knowledge, you're not going to know if you're getting a good deal or not. You need to know what the rare games are, what the rare consoles are. You need to start to learn, average prices for things and what to look for and what genres of games are typically worth more.
yeah.
There's so
PS1 is
much.
RPGs,
Oh
man.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so much. There's a lot of base knowledge that you need to have if you want to build a big collection very quickly without breaking the bank. You need to have that knowledge because if you run across a game lot that somebody's selling, you may not have time to sit there and look up every single game prior to buying it. You may have to hurry up and buy it before somebody else buys it. So if you have that base knowledge, you'll be able to look at that game lot and just look
Right.
at it and tell if it's going to be a good deal or not. What do you have to say about that, Carl? And I wanted that follow up by asking you, how did you build your knowledge of what stuff's worth?
It's a really, really good question. I would say you need to be, ironically, more of a jack of all trades
Yeah.
than a master of one
Hmm.
specific console, at least initially.
Yeah.
Get familiar with everything because, you're going to see everything. There's going to be
Hmm.
classified lists for all different consoles. Your friends might have all different consoles. But like you were saying, Matt, know a general ballpark estimate, at least of like the main games,
Yeah.
because every collection should have like one or two main games.
Hmm.
I mean, the games are popular, everyone bought. So you're going to see more titles more than others. Those titles you see more frequently, just know the rough estimate value of them. This
Hmm.
way, when you go to see a bundle of games, there's 10 games there. Okay, I know that these three alone are roughly worth about what this guy's asking for. So then
Right.
it's a good buy for you.
Yep. Yep.
Um, I would say in terms of how to gain that knowledge, just immerse yourself.
Hmm.
Follow some gaming pages on Instagram if you have an
Yep.
Instagram account. YouTube,
Yeah.
Matt. I mean, dude, I could tell you when I first got into this, I was watching Metal Jesus like
Hmm.
religiously every
Yeah. Me
day
too.
before I go to bed.
Yep.
I still have his notifications on when he
Hmm.
releases a new video. Stuff that he does, particularly like his yeah, he has a couple of videos where it's like the top 10 stupidly expensive games
Yeah.
for XYZ console.
Yep.
Those that's something good to know.
Hmm.
The Game Chasers, dude. The Game Chasers is such
Oh
a
yeah.
solid series that you put me
Yeah.
onto, man.
Yeah.
Um, and then also, man, you can always just have apps on your phone. I mean, I use
Hmm.
price charting. It's not always accurate, but
Yeah.
ballpark figure.
Yeah.
There's video game price charts is an app that I use as well. Just so if you need to take your phone out real quick, just to quickly look. You
Hmm.
don't want to make it obvious that you're looking up value of stuff. Some people get a little like weird when you're
Yeah.
like, oh, let me look at my phone quick, But
Right.
worst case scenario, just like, oh, I'm getting a text. Let me just answer this real quick and just look,
Yeah.
you know. Just really immerse yourself in the knowledge.
Hmm.
After about a month of just watching some stuff day to day, you're gonna start knowing some information, and it's gonna
Hmm.
help you out so much.
Yep.
And this stuff is interesting, I mean, I love learning about games I didn't know existed, or I
Oh
love
yeah.
seeing why something's expensive. Maybe it was a limited print, maybe it was at the end. It was released at the end of a
Hmm.
game console's lifespan.
Hmm.
There's reasons why certain things are expensive. It's cool
Yep.
to know why.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just a little bit of everything. You know, YouTube is great, Instagram. Those are probably the main two that I use.
Yeah.
So
Awesome, man. Yeah, I agree with you. And I definitely want to highlight the Game Chasers because not only is watching the Game Chasers YouTube channel a great way to learn,
hmm
about rare games and expensive games, but it's also a good way to learn good strategies and tips for collecting games and where to find them because these guys, it's basically like American Pickers. If you're not familiar with the Game Chasers, it's like American Pickers or Storage Wars or something like that, except they go out looking for video games. And then none of it's staged, very high quality production. And you can learn a lot from watching that show. And Metal Jesus Rocks, like you said, you can learn a lot from watching that.
hmm
Apps, like you said, apps like price charting, those are great tools to use. Um, you could always go to Google and type in, for example, you could type in on Google the most expensive Super Nintendo games, and you'll
Yeah,
find an article somewhere of somebody talking about the most expensive Super Nintendo games, and you can start to learn what those games are, so that if you ever see one out in the wild for a great price, you can snatch it up. But I feel like a lot of the knowledge really comes over time. And you'll probably agree with that, Carl. The
yeah,
longer you collect, the more knowledge you're going to have, and the more efficient you will become at collecting and knowing where the good deals are and things like that.
for sure. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, yeah, go for it, man.
What would you say is your biggest or has been, say, like your biggest hurdle in game collecting? Maybe some difficulty you had to overcome,
hmm
or just something, yeah, like a difficulty you had to overcome with game collecting.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you
Okay.
one that I ran into when I first started game collecting and the reason why, and then I'll give you the one I'm running into now. So my biggest hurdle when I first started collecting is I was just buying stuff left and right, spending way too much damn money and not building my collection efficiently and actually going into a little bit of debt that I'm still paying off right now. So, that was a big hurdle in the beginning because I was so addicted that I was spending money that I didn't necessarily have.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
After a couple of years, well, I would say maybe after the first year of collecting, I started to realize, you know what? I'm doing this shit all wrong. And I took a different strategy, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and me and you are both going to talk about it. But in the beginning, that was definitely a hurdle. It was, just spending money too crazily and not in a way to where I can recoup some of the money that I spent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that was a hurdle in the beginning, but now the hurdle that I'm running into is space. And that's something that a lot of game collectors run into. I mean, you said you got games in storage, so I know you're
Yeah.
running into
I,
that right
I I don't
now.
even have them set up like you do, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully, get a house soon.
Yeah. Dude, I can't wait to see you
It's gonna
make a
be
game
awesome,
room, dude.
man.
I
I
can't
can't
wait.
wait.
Yeah, man. But yeah, space is definitely a hurdle now because I live in a double wide manufactured home that we're living in on our property until we get ready to build a house. And I've pretty much maxed out the space in my game room. Now I've got some plans to redo the game room so that I can have more space. But for
Right.
right now, space is definitely a big hurdle for sure. So yeah, what about you?
Um, Flipping it back. I like that. I would say on more of the finding and hunting games down end. It's gonna happen.
hmm
Some people, I mean, for some reason, people anticipate, or not anticipate, but people assume that because something is old, it's
Yeah.
automatically worth money.
Right. Right.
There's been so many times I've been at the flea market, and one instance I had about 2 years ago. This one guy had like a copy of NES Pinball, right? Just like a
hmm
plain old NES Pinball. Um, like a $4 or $5 game,
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this is old. It's from the '80s. It's Nintendo. He's like $30, and I'm like, dude, just because it's old does not mean it's worth
Oh.
money. I'm like, I'm only asking you because I need it. I don't have it. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
go crazy for a pinball game. I
Yeah.
mean, pinball is not my thing, but it's something I needed. So I was like, let me ask about it.
Yeah.
Um, I would say in terms of collecting, it's just you're gonna run into some people that have some crazy expectations. I read an article a while ago that was like, oh, I have a Sega Genesis in your basement, it could be worth $1,000. Like no, just because that one copy of Mario sold for like 10 grand does not mean every copy is going to sell for 10 grand, you know?
Right.
So there are going to be some unrealistic expectations. People Google something and like they'll see, some article that makes them believe that their copy of Sonic 2 is worth, billions of dollars. But again, just know you as a person, do your research, get familiar with things, know what things are generally worth, and then, don't your time is valuable. Keep your focus, sharp tuned, and yeah, man, that would be probably my biggest hurdle in building a game collection. Just some people just have some crazy idea of value just because something's old.
Yeah, I've run into that several times too. I mean, nowadays with everybody being able to access the internet pretty much at any time on smartphones,
right?
It's gonna happen. But so I like what you said, because that goes back to another piece of advice that I would give to people, and I cannot stress how important this is. Never, ever overpay for anything. Not a single game, not a game lot. You should never overpay. Even if it's something you need for your collection. I mean, unless you're just absolutely desperate to have that item, you should never overpay, because the deals are out there.
Yeah.
And my recommendation, and this is what I've started doing recently, except Instagram and sometimes on eBay, but out and about in the wild and Craigslist and things like that, my recommendation would be to only buy something if you can get it well below retail value. Like for me, when I buy game lots or game collections, my general rule of thumb that I try to go by is if I can get the game lot or collection for $4 or less per item, in most cases, that's a good deal that you can make your money back on, and even maybe make a little bit of profit after even keeping some stuff in your collection.
Right.
You agree with that?
Yeah, man. I would say that my method, I don't really have like a set like item price like you do.
Yeah.
But if it makes sense, it makes sense. Like I'm not looking to like make money, in general or on everything. As long as if I can keep, like, dude, I'll spend $200 to keep a game that I want, and then I can make that $200. If I'm gonna, like, let's say it's a $50 game, if I keep that one game and everything else, if I part out everything else for like $185, I paid $15 for a $50 game.
That's true.
I don't have such like a cut and dry number, but if it makes sense, it makes sense. Especially if you want something, like you say, $15 for $50 game, that's a great deal. So you know what, I'll do it.
Yep.
Sure, my wife gets a little upset because there's piles of games in my room right now because of that. But you know what, she sees that it's a passion and a labor of love for me, so she puts up with it. Thank God.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. So that brings me to another tip for people. If you have the means to do it, and this is my opinion. Some people may feel differently, and some people may have different strategies. But in my opinion, I think the best way to build a game collection quickly is to have some money set aside. A couple $100, as much as you can set aside, and buy game lots and game collections if you get it below retail value. Because, and that's pretty much what I do nowadays, is I'll buy game lots, game collections. If it's a good price, if it's a price to where I can get that game lot, I can keep stuff out of the game lot, put it in my collection, and sell the rest to recoup, at the very least, recoup my money. So that in the end, like you were saying, Karl, in the end, you either pay very little for the games that you kept or nothing at all. But in some cases, if you do it smart, you can even make a little bit of profit that you can then either put back into the collection or put towards buying another game lot. But you got to search. You got to search out for these game lots on all the places that we've been talking about. And they're out there. They're out there. You just got to get lucky sometimes, but they are out there.
For sure.
And I know that's something that you've done. I know you've bought several game lots. But I wanted to ask you, what's one of the best game lots you've ever come across?
Oh, man, dude, doing this for like 4-5 years, there's quite a few that come to mind. I want to talk about 3 if we have time.
Yeah, man.
I'll keep it short.
Yeah, go for it.
Thinking about it in chronological order, and these are my favorites. So I would say that the very first one I want to talk about, I had found a guy who was selling what was it? It was a Virtual Boy, right? For like $100. So I'm like, Virtual Boy's fairly uncommon. You know, I don't have one yet, and it's something that's always kind of been quirky and interesting to me. Let me go check it out, right? I mean, it was like a 20-minute drive, wasn't too far. I get there, and the Virtual Boy is notorious for either island kind of just crapping out, right? I get there, and he's like, "Listen, man, you know, when I had it up this morning, both lenses were working, but now only the left one works." So I'm sitting there, and like I'm tempted, man. I'm like, I want this thing, but I'm like, I don't want to spend $100 if it only like halfway works, you know?
Yeah.
So I walk away from it, and it was really hard because I've never seen one in person before that day, and I'm like, man, this thing is so badass. But I walk away from it, right? So the next day, the same guy texts me, and he's like, "Hey, man, I know you came by yesterday to check out the Virtual Boy, but I have a lot of other stuff if you're interested. You know, it was my nephew. He doesn't live here anymore. He's moved away, and he said we can get rid of this stuff. He has a lot of games. If you want to come check them out, you know, maybe we can make a deal on something else." That's another tip, real quick. Don't burn your bridges.
No.
You know, always ask if there's more stuff. You know, keep everyone's number. You know, hey, if you ever find something else, let me know. Case in point, right? I'm like, listen, you know, I'm gonna stay away from this Virtual Boy for now. I'm gonna pass on this. But if you have something else, let me know. Next day, you text me. Awesome. Let me go back. I go back, and this is when I was relatively new to game collecting, and I'm looking at all this stuff, and this guy has so many of my expensive PS1 games came from this one guy. Actually, he had a tub of PS1 games, RPGs, some really, really solid, expensive RPG games like the Lunar, the 2 Lunar box sets on PS1, Fox Hunt, which is a pretty interesting and quirky PS1 game I got from this guy as well. Not to mention, I did pick up that Virtual Boy down the line from him as well. He had a big box of stuff, and he wanted like $800 for everything, which, you know, as a new game collector, I don't have that kind of cash, you know, just on a whim, right? So I actually split the lot with my friend John, whose Instagram is Retro Sniper, who he actually lives like a town over from me. I know you know him.
Oh yeah.
We met through Instagram, and it's like, holy crap, you live like 10 minutes away. That's awesome, you know?
Yeah.
But we each got some pretty cool stuff, man. I got a bunch of PS1 games. I got a Game Boy Light, which was a Game Boy that was released only in Japan. It's got a backlight on it. I got some TurboGrafx games. I got the Virtual Boy. What else did I get? I got some Sega Saturn stuff, if I remember correctly. John actually, we split the lot, and he picked up some Sega CD stuff. This dude had a copy of Snatcher complete.
Really? Damn.
I was like, you could I'm like, dude, I just want the Virtual Boy, man. I'm like, I'm obsessed with this thing. Like, you can have the Sega CD and take Snatcher. So he took that side of things. I mean, we each ended up with like a tub and a half, 2 tubs of games each. So
nice.
For $400 each, I mean, it was a good buy, you know. I got a couple others. I got my Atari Lynx from that guy as well. Dude, I got my XI. So if you don't know, and the Sega XI, it's a Sega Genesis and a Sega CD and one console that was released by JVC.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like a $250, $300 console. So that alone, I was like, that's a deal alone. So I got that out of the bundle. But yeah, that was one. I would say the second one, I was at a Salvation Army, another good spot to find games. And they had just gotten a truckload of stuff in. And the way my Salvation Army works is a little bit different. They have their main storefront, but like 4 stores down is like the receiving area where the trucks back into and stuff, and they do all the unloading there. So you can like walk past it and see what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So I'm walking with my friend one day, my friend Sebastian, and we were just like watching, you know, walking past, about to go in, and we see a box literally like at the end, like right where like the receiving area ends and the sidewalk begins. And I see like wires hanging out of it. I'm like, wires? That's a good sign, you know? Like, I was like, let me check it out. You know, I probably shouldn't have just went and looked, but dude, something about this box called out to me, right? So I opened the box up, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And dude, it was a TurboGrafx with the CD attachment and like 10 games.
Man. Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
dude. And this, you can find it from my Instagram. The lady at the Salvation Army had no idea what it was. She thought it was a VCR.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, it's just some video games. I'm like, wait, no, what do you want for the bundle? I'm like, can I buy this before you put it on the floor? I'm like, I would love to own this right now, you know?
Yeah.
Thankfully, the lady was cool with it. I'm like, listen, I need to check this box out. I'm sorry if I broke the rules, but I'm like, can I just buy this, please? Dude, $15 for the box.
Damn.
Yeah, man. The TurboGrafx 16, the CD attachment. The CD attachment was broke. But you know what? For $15, I got a TurboGrafx and like 10 or 15 games for it.
Yeah.
A non-working CD drive that I parted out for parts. That was a really good one as well. The last one, you know, this is over the course again of 4 or 5 years. You're gonna, you know, if you're new, this will happen. It's just patience. The last one I would say is me and my friend John, who is Instagram Retro Sniper. And my friend Jared, who is Retro Pop Games, Jared actually lives in New Jersey, which is one state over from me.
Yeah.
And he hit us both up. We had like a group text for a while. And he's like, listen, I know a guy who's going out of business. He owns a game store. I want to buy all this stuff, but I can't afford it. Do you want to split it 3 ways? So I think we each put in like $600. And me and John drove out to Jersey. You know, very fairly split everything up. You know, we were like, we draw straws, who picks first, who picks second, who picks third. We did it like a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So we spent like 2 or 3 days just each taking turns picking stuff into our respective little bundles. And then we picked up the game lot, and our cars are packed out, man. I got my Rob the Robot from that lot.
Nice.
My Rob came from there. I got a box Sega Saturn from there that I kept. A couple other things. But I would say those were probably my 3 best pickups in that regard. What about you?
Nice. Okay, so let's see. Well, there's 2 obvious ones that I'll talk about, but I'm trying to think if there are any more that I want to talk about. Well, before I talk about my 2 best pickups, right? Let me talk about a couple smaller things. So, I was at a flea market one day with my cousin, right? The flea market that I usually go to, and it's usually a gold mine. I usually find some pretty good stuff there.
Nice.
But that day we were not finding shit, man, and we were about ready to give up, dude. You know, we had been walking, you know, back and forth through the flea market for like 2 hours, you know, as people were setting up, and we were ready to give up. And we went past this one guy that was setting up, and my cousin saw a box, and he's like, or a tote. It was a tote, and he was like, "What's in that?" I was like, "I don't know." So I walked over there, pulled it out. And it had a Sega Master System with 2 controllers, 1 light gun, 6 games, all the hookups, and it had 6 magazines called the Sega Newsletter, or 7. There were 7 of them called the Sega Newsletter.
Yeah, man, I know that.
Yep. And so I asked the guy, "How much you want for everything in this tote?" And he's like, $30. And that Sega Master System was in really good condition. The games were in really good condition. And that the magazine, Sega Newsletter, there were literally only 7 issues of that magazine. And it's extremely rare and hard to find.
Yeah, it's like the Sega counterpart. My friend Joe, who I got the Jaguar from, he's like, man, my mom got me this Jaguar, not this Nintendo 64. And then he's like, I also had this Sega magazine instead of Nintendo Power. Like, what the hell was that? And I was like, yeah, man. Yeah, it's how I learned about that through him.
Hell yeah. But yeah, for $30, dude, it was an amazing deal, and I still have that Sega Master System and a lot of the games to this day. And that also was the first time I had ever seen a Sega Master System, and that set me on a path of collecting for the console, as you can see behind me over here.
Yeah.
Sega Master System games. Loved the console, fell in love with it. I'm going for a complete set. But that was a good find, and the guy said that he actually found it in some lady's basement. She just told him to take it among a bunch of other stuff, so he took it to the flea market. So that was a good find. And then I met a guy through Craigslist that I bought a small game lot from. And for the last year, over a year actually, he contacts me every month or 2 with a new game lot and sells it to me for usually $3 to $4 per item. So I get game lots from that guy quite a bit. And that goes back to, meeting people and not burning bridges, making contacts, because sometimes it pays off.
Yeah.
So, but those are small fry pickups compared to the two I'm about to talk about, and you probably know exactly which two I'm about to talk about. So,
Oh man.
yeah. So the first one, and I actually made a video on the first one that I'll leave a link to in the description down below. But my cousin contacted me, same cousin that was with me with the Sega Master System, and he said, "Hey, I found this guy, and he's selling his entire collection for $2,500. And there's a lot of stuff in this collection." So he sent me pictures of what was in the collection, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Because it was literally boxes and boxes of just about everything you can think of: games, consoles, magazines, controllers, accessories. So we talked the guy down to $2,000. And here's the great thing: there were easily probably a little bit over 2,000 items total in the collection, between the magazines,
Wow.
between the games, the consoles. So I literally got that entire collection for $1 or less per item. I made my money back within 2 weeks. I made my
Yeah,
money
man.
back on that collection. And I kept a lot of stuff out of that collection, a lot of good stuff, rare stuff, boxed games, cartridges. So that was amazing. And one of the notable items in that collection was Metal Storm on the NES. The cart only just the cartridge. That's a rare NES game, so I basically paid $1 for it,
Yeah,
which
man.
is nice. But yeah, so that was one of the best ones. And I did, I inventoried everything from that collection, priced everything up. Estimated value was around $10,000, give or take, around $10,000. So came out really good on that one. Made my money back, even made profit, put back into the collection, kept a lot of stuff. So that
Yep.
was a good one.
That's the way to do it. Once you get that
Yeah,
profit going in, just keep reinvesting it. You keep recycling the same money.
exactly.
That's the way to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. You are exactly right about that. So the second one, and this is actually the best pickup that I've ever found to date, and it actually just happened last week or the week before last, something like that. It was
Yeah, man.
recently.
That was incredible.
The beginning of it was the beginning around the beginning of July. So this guy used to own a retro game store near me in a small town, but in a valley, really small town, man. It's like backwoods kind of town, that had just random retro game store. And I used to go to the retro game store a lot to buy games. He would cut me really good deals. He had so many good games in there.
Oh, was this a store you used to go to, man?
Exactly.
That's
Yep.
where that came from? Nice.
Yep. Yep. That's the store. So, me and him got to know each other, me and the owner, because I was like practically his best customer, pretty much, right? And eventually he sold the game store. It has new owners now, but me and him exchanged numbers, and he told me, he has a collection and he might sell it one day. And if he ever decides to sell his game collection, I'm the first person he's going to contact. That was like a year ago, more than a year ago. And I hadn't heard a thing from him since. And then randomly he contacts me on Instagram and he says, "Hey, I got a box of consoles and a few other miscellaneous things. I'll sell you for $120." The reason he priced it so low is because a lot of the consoles didn't work for various reasons, but it was still a really good deal. If I can just get even a few of the consoles to work, it'll be worth it.
Right.
And actually, it had a working Game Boy Micro in that lot, so that alone made it worth it. And I made my
Yeah.
money back just by selling that. I wanted to keep it, but I had to make my money back fast. So, at any rate, whenever I bought that lot from him, he said he's thinking about selling his collection. He's going to give it some thought over the next couple of days, and he would contact me and let me know. So the next day, literally the next day, he contacted me and he said, "I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell my collection." And I'm like, "Cool, man. Do you have a list of everything, and do you have a price in mind?" So he sent me a list on a spreadsheet, and I was like, when I looked at that list, I was like, "Damn, I've got to have this collection, man," because there was so much good stuff, so much good stuff,
Hmm.
consoles, games, just so much good stuff. Which, by the way, if you want to see some of that, there's a bunch of
Behind
pictures on
you.
my
Yeah.
yeah,
Is
there's a bunch of pictures
yeah.
on my Instagram page, and I made a video. It comes out on the 20th, I think, is when I have it scheduled for. So there will be a video about this pickup.
Yeah. It's
At any,
epic.
yeah, but at any rate, so he gave me a price. I talked him down quite a bit. I ended up getting everything for less than $3 per item. There were 1,100 items in this game collection. Most of them
Wow.
were games. A lot of consoles, a lot of boxed consoles, a lot of really kind of vintage stuff too, like Commodore 64 and all the Ataris, even an Atari Jaguar. No Atari Lynx, unfortunately, but there was an Atari Jaguar. So, but this ended up being the best pickup that I've ever picked up because after I inventoried everything and priced everything, the estimated value of the entire collection is around $18,000, and
Incredible,
I
dude.
did
Ugh.
not pay anywhere near that.
I would say that was the best pickup I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Uh, for sure. 100%, man.
Well, just wait,
Damn.
man. I mean, I sent you the spreadsheet, after I inventoried everything, but when you see it in the video, it's even more impressive. But yeah, so the point of us telling you folks these stories is to let you know that this stuff can happen. Like Karl said, you got to be patient.
Yeah.
It could be years until it happens, but it can happen if you have the money available to make these purchases. You can just super boost your collection and even make your money back. So
Yeah. You know what? I would say also, don't get discouraged, especially on Instagram, right? Like you're
yeah,
gonna see like a ton of people posting like, "Oh, got this epic pickup, paid $25 for this,
yeah, yeah,
Panasonic IQ," or just
right,
people aren't posting the 100 times that they're going out and finding nothing. They are
yeah,
posting the one time that they find something, you
exactly.
know. So don't get discouraged. I mean, I
Hmm.
can't tell you how many times I've been to the flea market, sweating, all tired and hot, and I can't find
Hmm.
a damn thing there. You're going to strike out far more than you are going to, score. But
That
it's
is
going to
true.
happen. You just got to stay persistent. And again, you're going to see everyone posting all the time,
Hmm.
hey, got this bundle for this, got that bundle for that. That's just there one day they found something.
Yep,
You don't know. So just don't let that discourage you. I
yep.
remember thinking like, damn, like almost getting jealous. Not
Hmm.
sad to say it. Like
Yeah.
the IG gaming community is pretty close and tight knit, but
Oh
like
yeah.
you might get jealous here and there. Like, oh damn, wish
Yeah.
I found that. It'll happen. It's just
Hmm.
again, you don't know how many times that person has gone out and looked for stuff and came back empty handed.
Hmm.
They're just posting that one time they found something. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah.
Just know that going into it, and you'll be all right. And also, real quick, I would say definitely you mentioned Game Store.
Hmm.
That's something we didn't really
That's true.
touch base on or
Yeah.
talk about. I know by me, there's a couple of really awesome game stores. There's Broken Video Games over here.
Hmm.
There's Broken Game Shack as well. Get to know those owners of
Hmm.
those game stores. Let them know what you're looking for. You know, um, More often than not, like I'll get DM'd when they find something that I want. So just that's another outlet too.
Yep.
There's retro game stores. There might not be a lot of them, but
Yeah.
there's a few here and there. Just find your
Yeah.
local one, even if it's like an hour drive away. Just get to know the owner.
Yep. Yeah. No, you're right, man. And sometimes you can even find a retro game store slipping on a price. It's
I was
happened to
gonna
me
ask you about
once.
that. The
Yeah.
GameCube game, right?
Yep. It's happened to me one
Yeah,
time. Go Go Hyper Grind. I got
yeah,
Go Go
man.
Hyper Grind, no manual, but it was in the original case, original cover art. Disc was there. I got it for $5, and that is one of the rarest
Incredible.
GameCube games. Yeah. So yeah, you can sometimes, if you get lucky, you can find a game store slipping on a price. And don't feel bad buying it because they're a game store. It's their responsibility to make sure they price shit right. If they don't price it right, that's on them. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? So I wouldn't feel bad about that at all because, if you own a game store, you should know how to price games and what's worth money and what isn't. So, but
Yeah. And
go
go
ahead, man.
ahead. Oh, I would say what it's also not even about the games, man. It's just
Hmm.
about enjoying looking for them. If
Yeah.
that sounds weird, like, dude, I finding games is just a bonus. Like, I
Yep.
thoroughly enjoy like going out with like my one or two friends and that actually share the passion of mine and just digging through shit to maybe find a game. The
Yeah.
fun is in the thrill of the hunt. It's not
Exactly.
always the game at the end. It's just looking for games is fun. It's just that unknown, the essence of the
Hmm.
unknown. Like, am I gonna find something? I don't know, but let's dig through this box and see.
Yep.
So I would say hunting for games is probably just as fun as playing the games.
Yep.
You know?
I'm glad that you said the thrill of the hunt too, because I was going to use that exact phrase. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it is fun hunting for games, and when you do find something that's a gold mine or something worth money or something you've been looking for so
Dude,
long,
the
the
adrenaline rush
feeling,
is
oh,
incredible.
it's amazing,
Yeah,
dude. It
yeah.
feels so good to find stuff out in the wild. And on that note too, when you are out in the wild in places like flea markets, pawn shops, thrift stores, garage sales, make sure you dig. Like, especially at flea markets, if you see boxes or totes, don't be afraid to get freaking roll your sleeves up and get down and dirty and dig through that shit, because sometimes there might be something, at the bottom of a box under a bunch of wires. You don't know. So,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
worth digging, and it can be time consuming, and especially at flea market, sometimes you might be touching some pretty nasty or dirty
dude.
stuff.
Oh, I can't. Yeah,
Whew. But
I could vouch for that.
yeah. But definitely make sure you dig, and don't discount a box if you see, if you look at a box and just look at the top of it and you think, there's not any games. As a matter of fact, my
Yeah.
wife was getting mad at me the other day because me and her went to some flea markets together, and like I, when we were the first flea market we went to, I saw other people looking for games. So I knew we had competition. So I'm like, we got to hurry. We got to just buzz through this flea market as quickly as we can. So
Mhm.
because of that, I wasn't necessarily digging. So she would see a box off in the distance that would have like maybe some VHS tapes on the top of it, and I'd be like, I don't worry about that. It's probably just a bunch of VHS tapes. She kept getting mad at me because she wanted to dig
Yeah.
through it. But I was in a hurry that day. So but yeah, and there's competition out there. Just
You
know
know what? And
that.
I would say, on that point, I know by me the flea market that I frequent, there's a lot of like kind of niche vendors. Like one guy only deals with movies, one guy only
Yeah.
deals with like CDs.
Yep.
I cannot tell you the number of times I found Sega Dreamcast games in like a CD bin of CDs, like audio
Exactly.
CDs, and there's like a Sega Dreamcast game, or like DVD cases, and you find like
Yep.
a GameCube game. That's the one good thing about the way like media is packaged.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely like don't just discount something like, oh yeah, there's nothing there. He's just got CDs. Like
Yeah.
look through those CDs, man. Like you'll find something. People
Mm-hmm.
just assume because it's in a square jewel case, it's a CD. Like no,
Exactly.
it's a PS1 game. Um, so that is another tip,
Yep.
particularly at flea markets or Salvation Armies.
Yeah.
They usually don't care to sift through everything and sort it and kind
Yeah.
of categorize it. They just throw it all together. So, like you were saying, if it's just a movie bin,
Mm-hmm.
could be a game in that movie bin. So
Yep.
yeah, definitely
Yep.
dig.
Yeah. I'm glad that you said that, because I was about to, I almost forgot to say, like at thrift stores and places like that, always check the CDs, like Carl said, because, like he said, a lot of times they'll mix, PS1. It's usually PS1 games you'll find mixed in with CDs, but you might find a Dreamcast game.
Yeah.
So you never know. Or if you're really lucky, maybe a TurboGrafx CD game, if you're
Yeah.
really lucky.
Right.
Or even TurboGrafx game cards, they come in jewel
Yeah, they
cases
come
too,
in
don't
jewel
they?
cases.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, I thought so.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, that's great, man. So let's switch to a slightly different topic, and let's talk about negotiation techniques, because another thing that I want to say to people is I don't think you should ever accept the first price that somebody gives you for something. You should always negotiate. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I wanted to ask you, Karl, what are some of your negotiation techniques that you use when you're interacting with people that are selling you stuff?
Um, you know what? I would say that you're 100% right. Um, in terms of tactics, I mean, there's a couple of different ways you can go about this, right? So I would say that one, really, it could be a tactic, I guess. Small talk goes a long way.
Yes, it
You
does.
know, um, if you see someone that has a bunch of games, just I know like email them or get their usually if it's like a classified ad, get their
Hmm.
phone number and be like, is it cool if I text you? Email is a little hard for me. I'm at work right now.
Hmm.
Something like that. And just text them and just start talking. Like, hey, I see, these games you have. Are they yours from when you were a kid? Did you get them recently? Just kind of interesting. Just get the backstory
Hmm.
and just talk to them, open them up. they'll start telling you stuff, like, hey, these are mine as a kid. I really enjoyed them, but I want to have them go to a good home,
Hmm.
and then, oh, that's perfect. I've been looking for this game for a while. I would love to, play it for a little bit. I just found my Super Nintendo. I'm just getting into these games again. I'll definitely give them a good home.
Yeah.
I find people are more willing to work with you when they kind of see like you're an authentic person.
Yes.
I would say that if you're just like very cut and dry, like, no, I don't want to spend $200. Like, I'll do it for 125. Like,
Yeah.
or like just kind of very like, just not to say brash, but just kind of like work your negotiation into the small talk.
Yeah.
I think that for me that works a lot. Like, I just had a baby, so a lot of times I'm like, hey, listen, I just had a baby.
Hmm.
I know these games, you have them. I know, like, they're worth a little bit of money, but I can't afford to pay you that much. Like,
Dropping the baby card.
speaking, it helps, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I don't want to, offer you too low of an offer. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. You seem like a great guy. I'm like, but I'm more around the 150 ballpark. I
Yeah.
have cash ready right now. Can we schedule a time? I'll come to you, pick it up. A lot
Yeah.
of things too, man. Like, these sellers, they're not going to, at least by me, it's established, like, you're going there, you're picking it up, you could assume they want cash, but if you just say this stuff to them,
Yeah.
it's like, no, I have the cash right now, I'm a serious buyer, I'll come pick it up at, 5 o'clock today, I'll be there 100%,
Hmm.
it just, small talk goes a long way.
Yep.
I would say that that's a pretty solid tactic that I use, just get to know your seller, or your buyer rather, get to know, who you're buying the games from.
Yep.
It helps,
Yeah.
a lot of times, again, just talking about the games goes a long way. When I said, don't be afraid to just talk about the games. Just like, oh yeah, man, I haven't played that game in so long that I see you're selling, and I played it when I was a kid. I'd love to play it again.
Hmm.
And they're like, oh yeah, I was like, I always got stuck on this level, and just kind of build a rapport together.
Yeah.
This way, it's just easier to work with a person, I think.
Yeah.
The long and short of it all. I would say that's my number one tactic, though it's not really a tactic. It's just like opening them up,
Yeah. Right. Right. No, I agree with you, man. That's definitely a good tip. And also, make sure you're always really friendly with people. Don't be an
Yeah,
asshole to people.
yeah, for
You know what I
sure.
mean? Don't be rude to people.
Hmm.
Be friendly, be nice, which you should do that anyways in
Right.
life, unless they're not being nice to you. That's, different. But yeah, you should, but I mean, but like, you want to be nice to people. And like Karl said, you want to come across as an authentic human being and maybe make a little small talk. But outside of that, some other tactics are, especially at flea markets and places like that,
Well, yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's a
let's
different ball
say,
game.
yeah, right. So let's say you're at a flea market, somebody has a stack of games. You ask them how much you selling your games for, and they say they're $4 a piece. You say, okay, well, if I get this entire stack, what kind of deal can you make me on the entire stack? So bundle deals. A lot of
Dude, yes.
times, yeah, a lot of times if you buy more than one game from somebody, you can get them down on the price. Or they may be selling games for $5 a piece, and you may only see two games that you want, and you might grab those two games and say, hey, would you do two for $6? You know what I mean? So don't ever, never be afraid to negotiate with people and try to get bundle deals. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes they'll say no, but it's always worth asking. What I find is most of the time, people will take you up on that offer.
Hmm.
Most of the time
Hmm.
they will.
It's
So
it's
bundle
funny
deals are great.
you mentioned bundle deals because that's you mentioned American Pickers before. I know that
Yeah.
one guy Frank is all he does is bundle deals, and
Yep.
it works, man.
Yep.
I could tell you that there was one time I was at a flea market, and this one seller had, for some reason, I don't know why, they had like 50 copies of Armored Core 3. They were all sealed. I was like, how much is each of these? And like, oh, $6 each. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I buy 20 of them, I'm like, will you do it for like $40?
Yeah.
For 20 of them, I'll take a chunk of these off your hands. They're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, sure, whatever. It was, I don't know if that math adds up, but it was something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, bundle deals is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, bundle deals are great. And another way you can sometimes get people down on the price. So and I'll tell you a story to kind of illustrate this technique. So I went to a new flea market one day, and it's actually, there's another tip embedded in this story too. I went to a new flea market one day, and it was a storage unit flea market, so people just selling stuff out of storage units. And this one guy, you know, and the tip, the embedded tip, and Karl kind of mentioned this earlier. If you go to flea markets or yard sales, always ask. If you don't see games, if you can't find games, always ask them if they have games. Because sometimes they'll have games at home that they just didn't bring to the flea
Right.
market, or they just didn't set out at the yard sale or whatever. So I asked the guy, after I searched his storage unit, I said, hey man, you know, do you have any video games? I collect old video games. And he said, I actually have a box full of those that were my son's, and I just didn't bring them today. And I was like, okay, do you mind taking my number down? I'm really interested in seeing what you got. And so I gave him my number. And now this flea market's an hour and a half away from me, and that's an important
Damn.
thing to note. So I gave him my number, and maybe the next day or the day after that, he sent me a text message and he sent me pictures of what he had, and it was a bunch of Sega Genesis games, some of the Fantasy Stars, which are pretty rare. And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I gotta have this. So I asked him, you know, how much he wanted for it, and he gave me a price. I don't remember what the price was, but he gave me a price, and I was like, yeah, I can be there Saturday to pick it up, if you don't mind holding it for me. And then I said, but I have to drive an hour and a half to get there. Because
Yeah.
I have to drive an hour and a half to get there and lose time and a lot of gas, can you do this price? And I gave him a price that was like 40 or $50 less than what he was asking, and he went for it. He did it.
Yeah.
So that's another technique. If you have to drive a long way, you know, don't be afraid to tell them that and ask them if they can drop the price.
I do that all the time. Particularly for some reason for me. So I'm born in Queens. I live in Brooklyn right now.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I find a lot of video games in the Bronx. Like,
Yep.
you know, and there's a bridge to get to the Bronx, and there's a toll on that bridge, you know? So I use that technique. That's a great technique. I use it all the time, except instead of gas, I'm like, hey, you know, I got to pay like, you know,
Tolls,
10, 20
yeah.
bucks in tolls to get there.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you mind, instead of, you know, $100, can we do like 75?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, you know, sure, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that is a solid technique that I use all the time.
Yep.
And then I would say also, just because it kind of triggered my mind, condition, you know?
Yeah.
If a disc is scratched, like you said before, PS1 discs are notoriously, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they're notorious for being scratched and messed up. You show the seller, be like, hey man, you know what? If it worked, I give you your $4, no problem. But I'm taking a chance. I don't know if this works. Look at the disc and show them. You know, there's a
Yep.
big scratch here. You know, the manual's water damage. You know, would you do $2 on this? You know, I find that, you know, they can't argue it. They see the damage on the disc. You know, they
Yep.
want to get rid of it. No one else is going to buy it damaged like that.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
you know, that's another tactic too. Just it's a little obvious, you know, but condition is everything. You
Yep.
know, so another good one.
Yep, you're right. You're definitely. I didn't even think about that. I don't know why. I didn't even think about that. You're right. Condition is. Yeah, you should definitely, you know, try to talk them down if the condition is bad.
You
And
know,
just
or labels on the cartridges. You know,
Yeah.
the label's missing. Who's
Yeah.
gonna want this? You know, come on.
right. Or if it's like really faded or sun damaged or something like that. Yeah.
Right. You know, a lot of these items are out in the sun all day long. You know, they're gonna
Yep.
be faded. They're not gonna be pretty. You're gonna have to clean them up a little bit. You know.
Yep, you're right. And just a quick note about discs that a lot of people don't realize, and just a little tidbit for people that maybe don't know or are new to this. The data on the disc is actually not on the bottom of the disc. It's actually right
top.
under the label. So
Yep.
if you get a disc and it's scratched on the label of the disc, that
Worse.
disc is probably screwed. So just keep that in mind. Always check the label of the disc to make sure it's not scratched up, because if it's scratched up, it's probably not going to work, or it may work
Yeah.
for a little bit and then crap out on you. So just keep that in mind.
Mhm.
Also, if you're going to do what me and Karl have been talking about, and buying game lots and selling stuff out of the game lots to try to recoup some of your money, I highly recommend investing in two things: cleaning materials for cartridges, discs, cases, things like that, and also a disc resurfacer. There's a disc resurfacer you can buy on Amazon. It's the JFJ Easy Pro. It's just a little over $100 plus materials. You got to buy materials for it too, but it's a great investment
Mhm.
because, you know, not only can you resurface games in your own collection with it, but also games that you're going to sell that are scratched up. You can try to resurface them and you know, may make it a lot easier to sell them. So that's a good investment, I think.
Yeah, I still have to get one. I haven't gotten one yet. I've been meaning to for so long. I just haven't pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you ever get one, man, holler at me so I can give you some tips on how to use it because
for sure.
if you don't use it correctly, you can actually damage the discs. But I mean, it's not complicated to use. It's not too bad, and there's a lot of YouTube videos that show you how to use it and things like that. But yeah,
Gotcha.
it's definitely a good investment. So let's change gears for just a little bit. So you have a huge, I mean, it's huge. I mean, I think it's huge. Almost 25,000 followers. That's a lot of freaking people, man. So you got to, I mean, especially in the retro gaming community, game collecting community, that's a lot of people. So you got a good following on Instagram. And we briefly mentioned it earlier, but Instagram is a great place to not only buy games, but also sell games.
Hmm.
And the method that you use to sell games on Instagram has been I don't know who came up with the term, but it's called a claim sale, right? So, Karl, I'm gonna turn it over to you, man, and let you kind of explain to people. Number one, let's explain to people what a claim sale is, how it works, what are some of the like basic rules for a claim sale
Right.
that most sellers go by. And then
Hmm.
number two, let's both me and you give some people some tips if they want to do their own claim sale. Give them some tips because it is not easy to do and it's a hell of a lot of work, a lot more work than people realize. So,
Yeah,
Karl,
yeah.
over to you, man.
It's funny. I actually wrote a page on this about this on my website, which I don't really use. I used to be a web developer, and I have a
Yeah.
website for my Instagram account. It's not really doing anything, but there is a page on there about claim sales, and I think if you
Hmm.
actually Google the word claim sale, it's first
Really?
organically.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
So anything I'll say, I'm sure you can pull up on that page as well.
Hmm.
But long story short, a claim sale is pretty much what it sounds like, right? So someone on
Hmm.
Instagram is going to post a couple of things, whether it be in their story or usually their actual feed,
Yeah.
and they'll post some games, and if with a price, and if you want that game, you just type claim or claim Ocarina of Time, right?
Yep.
And if you're the first person to type claim that game, then you're first at bat. You have first shot to buy that game.
Hmm.
Um, the one thing I will say is that claim sales can get very competitive.
Yes.
So a lot of times people prefer, if you're not the first person claiming that game, if you see someone claimed it before you, put like backup claim on this game,
Hmm.
or this way there's like 3 or 4 people who would be interested in buying that game, and
Yep.
if the first person bails, then they move to the second person. You're not going to get every claim all the time, but it's fun, man.
Hmm.
Let's say you see 10 games you're interested in, and you claim some, and you end up getting 3 of them.
Yep.
It's fun. It's cool. It's like Russian roulette, but it's with stuff you want.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I really enjoy it. I
Hmm.
like Instagram because you could sell on eBay, you can sell on Letgo, you can sell on
Hmm.
OfferUp. I like selling on Instagram because I feel like you know a lot of these Instagram accounts I've become close friends with,
Yeah.
and a lot of us
Exactly.
just buy from each other all the time. So I'd
Yep.
rather post stuff for sale on Instagram, exclusively. Pretty
Hmm.
much now, I don't really use eBay.
Hmm.
I'd rather just post on Instagram, hey, like I see that my friend over here needs this game. He claims it. I'd rather just give back to everyone. Not that they give back, but help someone like you, like
Yep.
who collects GameCube games, like
Hmm.
so that's what a claim sale is. You see a game posted. If you want it, you claim that game by typing in the comments claim.
Hmm.
Usually there's like some rules
Yeah.
within the post, or maybe they'll post the rules before they start the claim sale.
Yep.
Just explaining like shipping and method of payment. Usually it's like PayPal or Venmo.
Hmm.
But Instagram is a great place to get games for a more than a fair price.
Yep. In most
Because
cases.
again, the community is really awesome, and everyone's
Hmm.
looking to help each other.
Yep.
So no one's really trying to overprice games on Instagram, and if
Yep.
you are, then you can claim the game from someone else.
Yep. Yep.
So that's what a claim sale is. And I had my first one when I had like 300 followers.
Hmm.
I just was at the account for a few months, just kind of posting games here and
Hmm.
there, and I was like, hell, let's try having a claim sale.
Yep.
And you know what? I think the first claim sale I had, I actually only got a few games claimed, and it literally just paid for the shipping product
Yep.
for that claim sale. But it was fun, man. So I was like, let's do it again.
Yeah.
but yeah, the claim sales are definitely fun. Great way to get games. Great way to just kind of build some rapport with the local community on Instagram, and
Yep.
that's where I met you.
Yep.
So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, you're right. And so claim sales, like he said, it's a great way to not only buy games, but it's also a great way to sell games.
hmm
And you can actually sell a lot of games really quickly through a claim sale, but you got to build a following first on Instagram. And claim sales can actually help you build a following.
yeah,
Every time I do a claim sale, I gain a ton of new followers. So it's a great way to build a following. But before we get into some more tips, Karl, about how to conduct a claim sale and the most efficient ways to do it, I was hoping you could touch on some tips for people on how to build a following on Instagram because, you gave me some pretty good tips, and obviously you're doing something right because you have almost 25,000 followers. So if you could give some
right.
people just some general tips on how to increase that number.
Yeah, man. You know what? I would say, and I'm kind of like not really following my own rules right now because I've just been busy with house
Yeah.
hunting and the baby and whatnot.
Right.
Life happens.
Yep.
This is my hobby.
Hmm.
And I'm very grateful that I've been able to, meet the friends that I've met through
Oh
this
yeah.
hobby and whatnot. Um, but I would say, you know what? It's initially and altogether, it's really not about the follower number. It's
Yeah.
just you enjoy doing something, so you do it.
Exactly. Yep.
I feel like so many people get hung up on that number, like
Hmm.
it's some sort of social proof. Like
Yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
have 1,000 followers to
Right.
to look cool or whatever. And
Right.
like, dude, followers are nothing. Like if you just
Hmm.
want that number, you can go buy follower bots.
That is
Just
true.
to make it like you have that.
Yeah.
It's just you really enjoy the games and the retro gaming culture, and you just
Hmm.
post about it, and the followers will come, man.
They will. Yep.
I mean, I've literally watched so many friends of mine that were like, "Hey, man, I really think it's cool what you're doing. I want to make my own page,"
Hmm.
and like they've got 1,000 followers. It's just the followers will come. I
Yeah.
think the biggest tips I have would be just to be authentic.
Yes.
Um, just be you.
Yep.
Be you and just talk about what you enjoy as a gamer.
Yep.
That goes a really long way.
Hmm.
I would also say, I mean, if you want to talk about like logistics, I
Hmm.
mean, you want to have an account that gets updated regularly. You want to give your
Yeah.
followers something to look forward to seeing. My initial goal or like kind of structure that I tried to keep was like one post on my feed a day
Hmm.
and like 5 story posts a day. I
Hmm.
mean, I was trying to like stick to the structure. And some days you post more, some days you post less, but you just
Hmm.
want to be active.
Yeah.
That's kind of the main thing. Just be active and be authentic, and followers followers just they're friends. You'll get
Exactly.
followers. It's
Yeah.
you don't focus on that number.
Right.
It's I feel like if you focus on it, it takes longer to build followers. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's just you just
Yeah.
just
That's true.
just be you and
Yep.
do what you do.
Yep. And I want to stress that the main reason that I brought that up is specifically for claim sales. It gives you more potential customers to buy your
Oh
games if you
yeah.
do a
I mean,
claim
it
sale.
definitely gets easier as you get more followers,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Just that
So
initial the initial batch. You'll get to 1,000 followers. I feel like once you hit 1,000, it gets easier.
it
For some
does.
reason,
Yeah.
there's like a magic thing
Yeah.
about 1,000 followers, where you
Yeah.
just start getting more followers after you hit that 1K mark.
Yeah.
For me, that 1K mark took like 8 months or a
It takes
year
a
almost.
while.
I
Yeah.
mean, it takes a
Yeah.
while to get there, but then it just takes off.
Yeah.
You're like steady slopes, and then it just like
Yeah.
shoots up.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, more followers definitely help in terms of claim
Hmm.
sales and things like that. But just be you and post what you
Hmm.
enjoy, and you'll get there.
Yep. Yep. And I do want to say this before we get into some claim sale tips. The Instagram gaming community is awesome. It
Yeah.
really is. I see very, very little negativity, very little toxicity. For the
Mhm.
most part, people in the Instagram community, Instagram gaming community, are very friendly, very nice. It's been a very positive experience for me, and I've met so many cool people, just like you,
Yeah,
man. I met
dude.
you, Gabe, Retro Sniper, Done by Diaz, so many
Mhm.
awesome people, man, that I've met on Instagram. So, you know, it's definitely a great way to get connected with the collecting community because there's a
For sure.
lot of people on Instagram that collect.
I think I talk to people from IG like more than my
Hmm.
friends. And I hate to say like in real life, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
my friends that I know not through
Right.
Instagram, you know?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and it's so weird, man, because think about it, because me and you know, we're at the age where we remember the days before social media. We remember the days before the internet started really blowing up, man. So it's just,
Right.
I don't know, when you kind of think back to those days and then think of how things are now, it's different. It's really different,
Mhm.
man. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And there's pros and cons to it, just like with anything.
Mhm.
All right, so let's talk about some Instagram claim sale tips. All right, so the way I see it, there's really a few different phases to an Instagram claim sale, right? Number
Right.
one, you got your prep phase. And your
Oh,
prep phase,
yeah.
that's when you're going to figure out what you're going to sell, price it.
The most work.
Yeah, exactly. Figure out what you're going to sell, price everything, and everybody's method for pricing stuff is different.
Mhm.
Price everything, take pictures of everything, get the prices on the pictures. There's a lot of prep work. Advertise the claim sale ahead of time on your Instagram page so people know it's coming. Unless you just want it to be a surprise claim sale, which that sometimes can work. But there's a lot of prep work to be done. So I wanted to ask you, how do you go about your prep work for your claim sales?
So I usually have claim sales on Fridays or Saturdays. And Matt, you're right. There's a lot of work. I know it doesn't
A
sound like a lot of
lot of
work, like
work.
taking pictures and stuff, but
Yeah,
it's time consuming.
it is.
It literally is like a full time job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish I could do games 24/7 and just
Mm-hmm.
like it's my passion, but
Yeah.
I am on a time schedule. So, I would say that I do it in segments. Being like on a time schedule with the baby, I don't do everything in one day. I wish I
Mm-hmm.
could, but I break it up.
Yeah.
So I sell stuff usually like Friday, Saturday. My very first step is to look through what I have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I have like a stack of games, and I'm like, okay, let me, pick some stuff to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had an N64 sale before our chat right now. Um, so I went and I try to, it depends, how many posts you want to have in your claim sale.
Yeah.
I was having huge claim sales like
Those are tough, man.
a year or two ago, but you know what? They are very tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to like keep my audience, waiting for like
Mm-hmm.
an hour and a half. So like I was doing like 30 posts and it would take me like, 2 3 hours. Now I do like 10 to 15 posts,
Yeah.
Also tip, when I first started, I was just putting one game per post.
Yeah.
Dude, break it up. Put like four
Exactly.
games in a
Yep.
post. You get it's less posts and you get more games out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one tip. But I usually go through the pile of stuff I have, or what I want to sell, and I just pick out a few things. I'll pick out, if I have like 15 posts and 4 items in a post, I'll just pick out that amount of games. And I'll just kind of set them to the side. So that's step
Mm-hmm.
one. Just determine what I want to sell. Sometimes it's a variety of different stuff. Sometimes it's themed, like just N64 stuff or just
Right.
PS1 stuff.
Yep.
Um, from there, I will test everything. Right. I'll take everything apart, clean the pins, put it back together, test everything, and make sure it works.
Ooh. That's
Once,
I don't do that because I just don't have time, man. I don't see how you
yeah,
find the
man.
time to do that.
One thing, and again, it's just again, this could help you build followers. I just,
Mm-hmm.
I really want to make sure that like N64 games, anything I
Yeah,
sell,
yeah.
I want to have that thing power on the first time they put it in the console. You
That's
know,
ideal, yeah.
it's not like realistic. It's not going to happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to make sure that the person who buys the game is happy and they're satisfied.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take every game apart. I'm going to make sure the pins are clean and put it back together, test it, make sure it's good. That's kind of phase two. And that is the largest chunk of time that
I
gets
bet.
put into a claim sale.
Yeah.
Just testing and cleaning stuff.
Yeah.
If there's some Sharpie on the cartridge, just take some rubbing alcohol, get that off there. You
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure it's presentable. No
Mm-hmm.
one wants to buy a dirty game, That's phase two. From there, once that's done, phase three, and usually I will go ahead and just take the pictures, right? I
Mm-hmm.
have like a couple of pieces of like foam, like kind of like poster board. and I just lay the games out like 4 in a shot, take a picture of the front, take a picture of the back too, because the back label is important. You know, some people ask about the back label. I'll take all my pictures, and then that's the heavy lifting, right? So that once that's done, I try to get that done. If I start on Monday, I'll try to have that done by Wednesday. And again, like an hour here, an hour there. I usually do like an hour and a half a day once the baby falls asleep. From there, I will just make a list of everything I'm selling, and I'll just kind of price it out. So for me, and people do this differently, like you said.
Yeah.
I just look on eBay, see what's up on eBay right now. See what the cheapest eBay price is for what condition-wise I have in my hand.
Exactly. Yep.
And I'll discount it a little bit. If I get the game as a part of a really, really awesome bundle where I got it for super cheap, I'll price it for significantly less than the eBay price. If I paid a little bit more, then I can't offer that much of a discount.
Right.
I definitely try to stay way more competitive than eBay, just because again, everyone on Instagram is like my friend now, and I want to hook everyone up.
You should always beat eBay's price, cheapest comparable price. You should always beat that price, I think, because otherwise, why would they want to buy it from you if you can just get it the same price on eBay?
Yeah, it's like the benefit of buying things through Instagram or through your friends on Instagram. You get a better deal. So as cheap as I can make something, I'll try to really give someone a good deal on an item, especially condition wise, right? Like if I see that there's a game for $30 and the label's torn, but like I have that same game and my label's awesome, I'll give them I'll try to beat that, so it's a cheaper price and it's in better condition,
Yeah.
So that's kind of worked for me. So I'll just price everything out in a spreadsheet, and then before the sale, I'll just like put the prices on the pictures, and then I have fun posting the items that Friday or Saturday whenever I have the sale. But you also, in between all of that, you do want to, like you said, advertise it, right? Like make like a notice. Like if you're selling something on Friday, if you're having a sale on Friday, just post something on like Wednesday or Thursday. Just letting everyone know, hey, at 9 o'clock, I'm going to post some N64 games, check it out. You might find something you need.
Yep.
This way people are anticipating it. If they're at work or if they're coming home from work, they know like, oh, let me check my phone at 9 o'clock at night. It goes a long way. So that's kind of what I do to prep. It definitely is more work. You want to make sure you take clear pictures and, nice, bright atmosphere. You don't want to have any dim or dingy pictures. But I would say that, just the big thing is testing everything. Would you want to buy something and it doesn't work? No. It happens. Sometimes things get bounced around in shipping. It's going to happen. But on that regard, I just try to keep everyone happy. If someone gets something, and it really hasn't happened because I do clean and test everything. But if someone tells me, hey, I'm having a problem with this game, even if it works, maybe it's their console. No problem, dude. Just send it back to me. I'll give you your money back. It's cool. Everyone's friendly. No one's trying to get over on each other. If it didn't work for you, maybe it'll work. Maybe I'll give it another rundown. It'll work again. So preparation and just being authentic and keeping everyone happy. I know I'm like kind of going all over the place here.
No, you're good.
But yeah, man, that's the prep work, and just check with everyone. Hey, you got your package? Cool. Everything good? Awesome. Thanks again.
Yeah, no, that's all great tips on the prep work, man. And just a little side note, I just want to mention this. So if you're new to Instagram or you're thinking about jumping into Instagram after what we've talked about, so that you can buy games from there, and maybe you're a little scared to buy games from people on Instagram.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to think about this, right? The people that sell stuff on Instagram, the first time that they screw somebody over or rip somebody off, they're gonna get called out for it, and you're more than likely gonna know that they're a scammer, they're ripping people off. But I'll say this, I would say 99% of the people that sell on Instagram are legit and trustworthy. I very rarely see any situations where people are scamming or ripping people off. It does happen sometimes. It does.
Yeah. It could happen in real life too, though.
Yeah, it can happen on eBay.
Right.
So that's always a risk. But for the most part, my experience, and I'm sure Karl, you probably had the same experience. For the most part, I've never had any problems as far as a buyer buying something from somebody. I've never had any problems. So just a little side note.
I've only had one problem, and this is again over the course of 4 or 5 years, and the guy made
Yeah.
it right. You know.
Yep. Right. Exactly. So. So all right, so the prep work, that's a lot of great tips on the prep work. The prep work is very important. I mean, think of it like if you're building a house, you want the foundation of that house to be perfect because it's going to be holding the whole house up. So
Yep.
same here, you want to make sure your prep work is good because that's the foundation of your entire claim sale. And another thing about the prep work that I wanted to mention is, you should definitely figure out what your claim sale rules are ahead of time and make sure people know that. And I put it
Yeah.
in every single claim sale post I do.
I didn't even touch on that. That's a good one,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
So, some of the rules could be anything from what payment method you accept, PayPal, Venmo. If it's PayPal, do you only accept friends and family? What are your base shipping prices for games so that people can kind of have a general idea of what your shipping prices are going to be? Do you sell to people in other countries or do you only sell to people in the US or whatever country you're in?
Mhm.
You know, uh, what are the rules for people claiming stuff? If somebody claims something and you DM them, you send them a message with their total and information on how to pay you. How much time are you going to give them to pay you before you cancel their order and give it to the next person? You want to make
Right.
sure all that stuff is laid out in your claim sale rules so that people know what to expect. And unfortunately, as a seller, you're going to run into more problems, I think, than you will as a buyer. Some of the problems that I've ran into is people not paying on time, or they'll
Mhm.
just ignore my message. I'll send them the message with what they owe and how to pay. And on Instagram, you can see when somebody has seen your message and they
And they
just
get cold
ignore it.
feet, you know? Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. So, you definitely want to have your rules in place, but you're gonna have people that aren't gonna pay or they'll back out at the last second. And that's
Mhm.
when you hope that you have somebody that did a backup claim because then you can just switch to that person. So,
Right.
do you have anything to add on claim sale rules?
I usually send out like a paragraph,
Hmm.
once someone claims something, like, so after the sale, 'cause we're touching more about like after the sale.
Hmm.
Um, I'll just send like a DM out with the
Hmm.
total, like you claim this, this, and this. The
Yep.
total with shipping is this.
Yep.
And it's like a paragraph, here's how you
Hmm.
can pay. Please pay within, 24 hours. You're not gonna, you can't expect someone to pay right then and there. Give
Yeah.
them some time.
Yeah.
I usually give like within 24 to 48 hours. If you need more time, just let me know. I don't
Exactly.
mind holding something for someone. I had
Right.
one guy last week who was like, "Hey man, I get paid Thursday. I know,
Hmm.
it's a few days away. Do you mind holding them for me?" He's like, "Not, I
Hmm.
understand." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, man. I don't mind holding it for you.
Hmm.
I know, like, I don't want to be the reason why your money is tight that week. If you
Yeah.
need me to hold the game for you, then by all means, I don't mind.
Yep.
Um, and then just confirm shipping information. Make sure
Hmm.
that you have their shipping address, and also make sure that I like to get a screenshot of payment. It just makes it easy because
Yeah.
if like 20, 25 people claim stuff from you, and you see that there's a screenshot there and it's got your
Hmm.
information, it's just one less step I have to do to double check that my PayPal
Yeah.
account is you know
Yep. Exactly.
it doesn't hurt to double check your PayPal account, but it's just it makes the whole process smoother and faster.
Yep.
um yeah, man, so that's pretty much rules and regulations
Yeah. Nice.
wise.
I like what you said about a paragraph because it is a good idea to have like a template of
Yeah,
what
I
you're
feel
gonna.
bad sending the same thing out all the
Yeah,
time, man.
right. No, I mean, it saves you time though. If you have a template that you can just, change a few things in that you
Mhm.
can just send out to people, it makes it so much faster. And also, Karl, you mentioned this during your prep work. It's really a good idea to have everything you're selling on a spreadsheet. You could do a Google sheet or something like that,
Mhm.
because as people are claiming stuff, you're going to want to keep track, and you got to have some kind of system of keeping track of everything that people are claiming, as well as who is paid, who hasn't paid. You
Yeah.
know, what
Yep.
items
Yep.
have you packaged? What items have you not packaged? You want to make sure you keep track of all that because you don't want to, if you don't keep track of all that, if you're not organized, you're going to end up forgetting to ship something. You're going to end up shipping somebody the wrong thing. You know, any number of things could happen. So you got to be organized. You got to have a method to keep track of everything going on during the claim sale.
Yeah, man. My method, I have a spreadsheet, and yellow means that I sent them a message, green means they paid, and blue means it shipped.
Dude, that's so funny that you do that because I do. I don't
Yeah.
use the same colors, but I do the exact same thing. I color code things depending on
Yeah.
what status they're in. So
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
awesome. So yeah, so the prep phase is really phase one, and then phase two is actually posting the stuff on Instagram. And when you post stuff, everybody does it a little bit different, but you want to put some information in the description, like maybe even you want to maybe I've started doing this where I'll still list the names of the games in the description with the price, even though they're on the picture. And then if there's something about the game's condition that I want to describe, I'll put that in the description. Also, hashtags. Hashtags are stupid. I think
Yeah.
they're the stupidest thing ever, but you have to do them when you do an Instagram claim sale because that's going to get more eyes onto your claim sale because it may get picked up when people search for stuff on
Right.
Instagram. So you want to use hashtags. Like Karl said, he did a Nintendo 64 claim sale today. So I would imagine most of your hashtags were like Nintendo 64, N64, so on and so
Yep.
forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely important. And sometimes you can run into an issue. I don't know. I don't even know if this has happened to you, Karl, but sometimes when I do a claim sale, it's like Instagram flags you or something because you're posting too much stuff too fast. And
Right.
like I'll post something, and I know for a fact I did the description, I did the hashtags, but whenever I post it and I go look at the post, the description is completely empty. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. That's happened to me a lot. I actually think I knew what caused it. So that hasn't
Hmm.
happened recently, but it used to
Hmm.
happen to me like a year ago all the
Yeah.
time. Um, so Instagram recently, or at some point, where maybe I just realized it, um, but there's a 30 hashtag limit. And
Oh,
now if you
okay.
go past the 30 hashtag limit, it tells you, right? Like when you go
Yeah.
to post it, it says, 31 hashtags, only 30 are allowed.
Hmm.
Um, but in the past, when you'd go over 30, and like you hit 31, your comment would not display. Your
Uh,
description wouldn't display. So that's what was
okay.
causing that.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way, like just
Hmm.
like, why is this description on here? I know I added it.
Yep.
Now they fixed it, so it tells you when there's too many hashtags, but
Okay.
in the past, it did not. And if you had too many hashtags, it would just not show your comment or your description. So that's what was
Gotcha.
causing that. But yeah, I've had that happen a few times.
Okay, so once you post everything and you start keeping track of who's claiming stuff, the final phase is the packaging and the shipping out.
Yeah.
And that I think is probably the most complicated phase for people because number one, you got to have packing materials. You got to have bubble mailers, you got to have boxes, you got to have bubble wrap, you got to have tape.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff you have to have. So you have to invest in some stuff, and you got to keep that in mind when you're pricing stuff. You got to
Right.
invest in things, and you got to have a printer. Yeah, well, if you do your own labels,
Right.
you got to have a printer. You don't have to do your own labels. You can take stuff to the post office or UPS or whatever and have them do it for you, but you're going to be standing in line and then you're going to have to wait on them to do each package and it's going to be very time consuming. So I
Yeah. This
recommend
is a good.
doing
This
your
is a good topic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I highly recommend doing your own labels. But here's the thing. Doing labels with a regular printer is a pain in the ass because you got to
God.
cut the label out, then you got to
Yeah.
tape it to the
Yep.
package.
Oh man.
So,
If I knew what I knew now.
yes, for real. So, if you're going to do Instagram claim sales regularly, I highly recommend investing in a little printer called a Rollo laser printer. And you have one too, right?
Yeah, and this isn't an ad. This is just an awesome printer.
Yeah, dude, it's
Um,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. So just to tell people what a Rollo laser printer is, right? It's this little printer. It's maybe like this big. It's really small.
Yeah, it's like
And
8 inches by like
yeah,
3. It's
yeah, something
tiny.
like that. Yeah, something like that. And it prints labels, sticky labels that you can peel off and stick. But that's not even the best part about it. That is amazing because you don't have to cut the labels off. You literally just print it, tear
Yeah,
it,
no tape. Yeah.
peel it, stick it. No tape. But the amazing thing about these printers is you never have to buy ink for them because they don't use ink. They
And
use
it's fast as
lasers.
shit, man.
So
It's so
fast.
fast. Like,
So
done.
fast. Yep. Yeah, the label's just like, and that's it. And it's like 100 and I don't even. It's between
Dude, the
100
the
and
printer
200.
is $170, and
Yeah.
so just to touch base on this, because this is a really really good topic, and this
Mhm.
dude, this cut my time in like a,
Yeah.
in half, if not more.
Big
Like I
time.
take like a third of the time now to ship stuff.
Yep.
Um, I used to have to buy ink. I had like a like not like an old school, but like a modern printer, like an HP
hmm
printer. But like ink is expensive, right? Like ink, black and white ink was like $30. Color ink
hmm
was like $60. And I had to go through cartridges like every other claim sale. But the Rollo printer, it's a 179 for the printer, and the labels, because you don't buy ink, you buy labels. But the labels are 500 labels for 20
Yes.
bucks.
For
It's
20 bucks.
incredible,
Yes.
dude.
Yes.
The printer literally pays for itself because you're not buying ink anymore. I was
hmm
buying ink every other claim sale, and then the time that I was taking, cutting everything out and
So
taping
much
it on the
time.
package,
Yeah.
dude, that printer is a lifesaver, and it's paid for itself so many times over.
Yes.
I cannot recommend it enough. In tandem with
hmm
PayPal, you had suggested that I ship through PayPal,
hmm
and that was so revolutionary, man. I was
Yep.
going to the post office, dude.
Yep.
I looked like a lunatic. I was going to the post office with like 50 packages,
Yeah.
and everyone's looking at me like, "Oh God, this guy's gonna take forever,"
Yeah.
There was actually times where I had to get off. I had to do 10 packages, wait
hmm
online again, do 10 more packages, wait online again. Dude, the post office was like a 2-hour ordeal. It was horrific.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Ooh. No.
But now, instead of going to the post office, um, I just pay through PayPal, and I print
hmm
the label, and it's
Yep.
like so much faster.
Yep. Yeah. And so, yeah. So, kind of to piggyback off what Carl was saying. So, when you have a regular printer, ink is expensive. And if you're doing
Yeah.
claim sales, you're going to go through a lot of paper. You're going to go through a hell of a lot of ink. It takes so much time to cut it out and tape it to the package. So you're going to go through tape too. That's another thing. You're going to go through a lot of
Yeah.
tape. But when you buy this laser printer, you pay, 175 bucks plus 20 bucks for a pack of 500 labels, which will probably last you a year,
Yeah, it's like a year from me.
you
Yeah.
know.
It's the whole year, $20.
Yep. If you do claim sales a lot, that printer will pay for itself very quickly because you never have to buy ink for it, and it
Hmm.
saves you so much time. And that combined with what Carl mentioned, buying your labels through PayPal, which you could probably go on Google and type in PayPal shipping link, and you can
Yeah, it's
probably
like
find it.
paypal.com/ship now, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can go on there and you just sign on to your PayPal account, and you can buy shipping labels. You just put in the weight. You select your method of shipping. If it's a box, depending on the weight, you might have to enter the dimensions of the box.
Hmm.
But yeah, and it saves so much time because then all you gotta do is take the packages to the post office and set them on the counter or put them in the box. If you
Yeah.
go early in the day. So
And I wanna touch base on that too, if you don't mind. Just
yeah,
you
go
showed
for it.
me that, and it was like that website, that PayPal site. So I didn't
hmm
know you could pay through PayPal and just print the labels right there. But
Yep.
I didn't. The other thing that sucks about going to the post office is like I'm just gonna hand them an item. They're gonna tell me how much it is to ship it. I don't know how
Yeah.
they're shipping it. You
Right.
know, the website is awesome because I can choose like 5 or 6 different shipping methods and know how much it's gonna be.
Exactly.
So it's not a surprise. And then also I know, so that website lets you ship through USPS, the post
hmm
office, FedEx, and UPS.
Yep.
And you're gonna learn a big learning experience apart from learning games is learning
hmm
shipping. Like
Yes, it is.
it's a science,
hmm
and it for some reason shipping scares a lot of people. Like whenever my
Yeah.
wife has to ship something, she's like, "Oh, ship this for me." But this website really like helps you to learn the
hmm
best way to ship something, right? So
Yep.
I know that once I have a package, like there's a certain point where USPS, like it's great for small packages, first class mail, anything under a pound.
Yeah.
Anything that costs you more than like a medium flat rate box of 13 or 14 bucks, usually at that point it's cheaper to ship through UPS, not the post office.
Yeah.
And the great thing about the website is that you actually get a discount. Maybe on FedEx, but I know for sure UPS through the PayPal site you get a discount. So if something costs $24 to ship, because you're doing it through the website and saving them time, there's like a discount. It's like 18 bucks instead of $24. So like you get a nice discount too. So that's a super big perk as well about that website that I wanted to bring up just to help anyone out there with shipping. Because for me that was a hurdle, learning how to ship things. But once you get it, it's you'll be all right.
Yeah, definitely. And to kind of talk about packaging a little bit. Packaging is another thing that takes a little while to learn and get down because you got to decide when to use a bubble mailer versus when to use a box, and it's going to depend on, number one, how many items you're shipping. You may not be able to fit everything in a bubble mailer, but also, how fragile is the item, because you may not want to put a PS1 game in a bubble mailer. Now, if you wrap it in enough bubble wrap, it'll probably be okay if you wrap it in enough bubble wrap to give it plenty of padding, but there's no guarantee. And one thing that I always do with bubble mailers, and I don't know if you do this or not, I actually I go on Amazon and I buy a roll of 500 fragile stickers, and I put one on each side of the bubble mailer, so that way the people at the post office, they'll see that sticker and they'll know that it's a fragile item. And I do that.
Let me not throw it across the room.
Exactly. But yeah, so you got to have packing materials, bubble mailers, bubble wrap, packing paper, tape. There's a lot of stuff you got to invest in, and I think Amazon is probably the
Amazon
best
boxes are great. Yeah. I keep all my Amazon boxes.
Yeah. And it's so packing is very time consuming. It can be very time consuming. You want to make sure you pack stuff securely.
Real life Tetris,
Yeah, for real. Do you have any tips to mention about the actual packing process?
I will say that you definitely don't want to skimp, dude. So packing is super important because it's the first thing that the buyer is going to see. They're going to see the package in their mailbox,
Yep.
So if you're shipping like a cardboard box for a Super Nintendo game in a bubble mailer, that might get someone a little mad,
Yeah.
If something's like you said, if something is valuable or if it's sensitive, you want to put it in a box versus a bubble mailer.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and you can't ever be too cautious. So usually, like, I'll wrap something in bubble wrap and then I'll wrap it in saran wrap just to make sure like it's like watertight. Tape it up, put it in like a box or a bubble mailer. People like to see that you took the time to really properly package something. No one likes when you get something from eBay and it's just like thrown in a box with no protection.
Exactly.
So a little bit goes a long way. Bubble wrap's not expensive, like $10 for a huge roll. But it just shows that you care and you want it to get there safely. And it's the first thing that they see. So definitely take like the extra effort to really package something securely, because I want my packages to get to me securely. So I'm sure everyone else, think about how you would, put yourself in the buyer's shoes. It's really all it comes down to.
Yep. And you can also, whenever you're DMing people their total, you can also give people options for the shipping. So you could say, okay, you could say, I can ship this in a bubble mailer and you'll only have to pay this much, or I can ship it in a small box, but you'll have to pay this much, but if bubble mailer, it could get damaged, box probably not get damaged, but you're gonna have to pay more. So you can give people options. And then at that point, if they select the bubble mailer because they want to save a little bit of money and it gets damaged, it's going to be on them at that point because they chose the less secure shipping method. So
right.
But a lot of games you're safe to ship in bubble mailers. Just make sure you pad it a little bit more because even though it says it's a bubble mailer, the padding is still really thin on those. So, But yeah, so then after, so what do you consider to be next after the packing and the shipping? I mean, that's pretty much the end, but not quite, right?
So after the packing and the shipping, so you want to. When I was in like website development and digital marketing, there was like the
Mm-hmm.
slogan, right? It was like attract, convert, close, and delight, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think like once they ship something, that's it, it's out of their
Yep.
hands. Make sure you send the tracking number. You have all the tracking numbers. Check on them every now and then.
Yep.
Just make sure that they get to their destination. Message someone, hey, I saw
Mm-hmm.
what's delivered. Did you get it?
Yep.
Just any feedback. Feedback goes a long way.
Yep.
It's really about that last step. Like I said, attract and for close and delight. Delight's the last thing. Make sure they had a
Mm-hmm.
good experience. Hey, are you happy? Are you satisfied?
Mm-hmm.
Just want to make sure that you're happy. That's really what it comes down to. Anytime I ship something, or on this rare occasion that someone's had an issue, I'm like, man, I just want to keep you happy. What can I do to
Yeah.
keep you happy?
Yeah.
Just make sure they're happy.
Yep.
If any issues, let me know. I'll be happy to rectify it. I'm glad it got there safely. Any issues, hit me
Mm-hmm.
up. I'm here. I'm not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Your reputation really goes a long way.
Yep.
So just be there for the buyer,
Yep.
really.
Yeah. Yeah. You should really, I mean, even though it's not really a business, you should treat it like a business. You should
Yeah.
treat it like a business. Because, I mean, technically it's not a business because you're just, if you want to be technical, you're really just selling stuff out of your collection on
Right.
Instagram. You know what I mean? And so it's not really a business. Which is why most of the time when people sell on Instagram, they tell people to pay, if they do PayPal, to pay through friends and family and not goods and services because
Right.
it's not really a business. But you should treat it like a business regardless. And like Karl said, that you're going to build a reputation. Once people know that you're reputable and that you're trustworthy and that you're going to take care of them and do a good job, they're more likely to buy from you. Um, I have a lot of repeat buyers. I know you have a lot of repeat buyers, and it's people that
Yeah, man.
have started to trust you. They know that you're a good person to buy from. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is Instagram is a great place to sell games, to try to make some of your money back, or make even a profit to put back into the collection.
Right. I mean, you could even go a step further. Just set up like a post where people can leave a review for you.
Yep. Yep.
That kind of helps out. Like you said before, a lot of people are a little, not to say weirded out, but they're
Hmm.
question, they kind of question like, hey, should I buy this from this guy? Is this guy a legit person?
Yeah.
Check
Yeah.
out my reviews, ask anyone that's ever bought from me. I don't care who you talk to, just, ask anyone that's
Yep.
claimed something. I'm sure, they vouch, I
Hmm.
want you to feel reassured.
Hmm.
Whether you want to DM someone that's a previous customer, or someone I've sent something to, or if you want to look at this post with all my reviews on it,
Hmm.
just that's another thing you can do too at the end of the sale. Hey, just mind leaving me a review. I just set up a post for some reviews. If you want to leave me something, I'd
Hmm.
appreciate it. Just get some social proof there. So
Yep. That's a good
next
idea.
time you go to sell something, it's easier for you.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good idea because you can send the person the link to the post with the
Yeah,
reviews and they can see it. What's that saying? The proof is in the pudding.
there
It's
you
kind of
go,
a kind
man.
of a weird saying. What the hell does that even mean?
I don't
Anyways,
know.
I might Google it later, but I'm not going to Google image search it because you never know what the hell's going to
Yeah.
pop up when you Google image
Oh
search
man.
something. Um, but cool, man. So before we close out the podcast, is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to talk about? Anything you want to plug? Of course, I am going to put your Instagram page in the description down below. So anybody on Instagram, go follow Karl Retro Gaming Zone. Not
Thanks,
only
man.
for his great posts, because a lot of his posts are really, really well done. The pictures and the stories behind them, but also because you can buy games from this dude, and he's one of the best people. No joke, he's one of the best people to buy games from on Instagram.
I appreciate it, man. I definitely
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, man. It's just really just reflecting, man. Like
Hmm.
thinking about like I remember like buying some games from a claim sale. I'm like, man, it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. I'd like to do that one day,
Yep.
And I just set up the page, and then it kind of just took off from there.
Yep.
But definitely want to thank you because
Yeah.
you're like one of the first dudes I met from a claim sale.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I was able to help you with the GameCube collection. You know, I
Yeah,
know
man.
that's your baby right there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and hope we could do it again soon.
Yeah, definitely want to have you back on, man, because I want to have you back on where we can actually just talk about video games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Not necessarily collecting, but just the video games we like and things like that, man. So I think that would be pretty cool, and I might get a few, maybe one or two other people on that as well to have kind of a just kind of a group discussion about just
yeah. It'd be
video
pretty
games
sweet.
in general. You know.
Hmm.
But yeah, anything else, man? Anything else you want to close out on?
Um, get on Instagram. You know,
Hmm.
if you're hearing this and you're new and you want to start a collection, I think your first place to go would be Instagram. Just
Yep.
search for game posts or game accounts again through hashtags. Just
Yeah.
search for hashtags of N64 or PS1 and follow some accounts. I'm pretty sure that like the IG gaming community is pretty niche, so you are
Yeah.
going to eventually get to the main accounts within the community. And there's
Absolutely.
so many great ones. I
Oh yeah.
mean, I can name them for hours.
Hmm.
Um, but just definitely I would say start there, and like you said,
Hmm.
YouTube, and that's it.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. All right, well, man, thank you for joining the podcast. It was nice to because a lot of my podcast episodes have not necessarily been about gaming. They've been about filmmaking and movies and the Game Chasers movie and things like that. And
Right.
so it's nice to have an episode that's just straight up about collecting and I'm sure that a lot of my audience would probably rather see episodes on collecting, but filmmaking is kind of another new passion of mine that I'm getting into. But yeah, man, thanks for joining me. And one day, man, me and you are gonna go game hunting together.
For
One
sure.
day.
Whether it's here or there, yeah.
Yeah, dude, and it's gonna be a blast. So I look forward to that, man. But yeah. So again, everybody, I'll leave a link to his Instagram page in the description down below. Go check it out. Go follow Karl. And until next time, folks, stay safe out there. Keep playing games and having a good time. And I'll see you all in the next one. Later.